Hello and welcome to another edition of It's Your City. I'm Bob Crowell and I have the distinct honor of being and privilege of being the mayor of the greatest city in Nevada, our very own capital, Carson City. As you know, I usually take a couple minutes after each board meeting and talk about what happened at the board meeting and other things going on around the town. And in that vein, I want to apologize. I missed the last couple times of doing this. One because of legislative things going on that took me out of the loop, and the second thing is on the May 2nd meeting, I somehow contracted what I call a creeping crud going around the town is that kind of set me back for a while. So I'm on the mend now, and but I do want to apologize. I had to kind of leave the May 2nd meeting a little early as well, but I'm on the mend now, and so we'll go forward. Let me talk a little bit about what happened at the last board meeting on this past Thursday. One of the issues that was kind of a holdover from the last board meeting on May 2nd was the issue of the municipal golf course. The board on this last Thursday finalized a lease agreement with the Carson City Municipal Golf Corporation, which is a nonprofit corporation that was essentially requested to take over the municipal golf course some years ago when the city wanted to get out of the operations of that golf course. The lease was amended to provide, instead of a set payment, that we would take 6% of the gross revenues each month for the term of the lease, or for as long as the golf course, municipal golf course, is operating there. This has been a somewhat contentious issue because the golf course, the municipal course, although it contributed mightily towards the bond payments in the early part of the 2000 decade, when the economy started to take a slide, it was unable to make its payments under the terms of the lease. The board worked with them a couple of years and to try and relieve some of the payments on that. At the end of the day, under the terms of the old lease, they were about $480,000 behind. We turned that over to our internal auditor to take a look at, what the alternatives were, because there are a lot of ins and outs with respect to the golf course, not the least of which is the fact is that we use the golf course not only as a municipal golf course, but as a place to place our treated effluent in Carson City, which, if we did not have that, we would be looking to create an even more expensive wastewater treatment plant. At the end of the day, the internal auditor advised us that, one, they thought that the golf course was being run efficiently, and that the first course of action should be we should try to renegotiate the lease to provide greater oversight and transparency between the city and the nonprofit, and to restructure the payments. And that's what was that advice, in my view. That's what 3 of the board members followed. There was a split vote, but I think that, from my own perspective, the approval of the lease, the renegotiation of the lease, and the approval of the lease was what our internal auditor had suggested. So we'll go forward from there and see how this works out. If there are changes to the comprehensive plan for that area in terms of doing something other than a golf course, the lease provides that it can be terminated without penalty by the city. So that's the golf course. The other thing that we talked about was redevelopment. We spent some redevelopment funds. We met as a redevelopment agency, and we agreed with the Redevelopment Citizens Advisory Committee to distribute approximately $65,000 of redevelopment funds from Area Number 1 to various special events occurring in and around downtown and our community center. We've done that, although the board has voted to get out of the issue of funding individual properties by redevelopment and instead moving towards more generic and infrastructure improvements for redevelopment funds. The board has consistently over the years provided some funds for entities trying to drive economic vitality in our downtown area in terms of special events. So this past board meeting, we made that decision to concur with the Citizens Redevelopment Advisory Committee and distribute about $65,000 to 12 entities that had applied for a grant status. At the same time, we believe that we're going to have a discussion. I think it's accurate that we're going to have a discussion with respect to whether or not the Redevelopment Authority should continue funding special events, either on its own or through giving a one-time grant to something like the CCVB or to the Cultural Commission or to some other entity where the funds could be then distributed from that entity if indeed we still want to contribute funds from the Redevelopment Authority for special events. But that'll be a discussion for another day, but I'm sure we're going to be having that discussion. Let me conclude with a matter that deals with our voting process in Carson City. Last year, our Charter Review Committee voted to place on the 2014 ballot a different method of electing a Board of Supervisors, which would provide that the top two candidates in a ward you would run in your ward only. The top two candidates would then run in the general citywide. The Board of Supervisors adopted what the Charter Review Committee said, and there is currently scheduled to be on the 2014 general election ballot a question as to whether or not the city wants to adopt a process for electing our supervisors where you have supervisors run in their ward in the primary, and in the general, the top two go to the general and run citywide. I raise that because in the middle of this is a bill called Senate Bill 457. 457 would amend the charters of Carson City, Henderson, and I think Sparks and Reno. Maybe I've got the Reno for sure, to provide ward-only voting, and that means that the top vote getter out, you would run in your ward, the top vote getter out of that ward would then become, be elected to the Board of Supervisors, as I understand what that bill says. Our Board of Supervisors took that issue up as to whether or not to support or not support that particular piece of legislation, and our board voted that we should make these decisions locally and not have them imposed on us by the state, and that we should allow our citizens to vote on the issue as scheduled for the 2014 general election. As of yesterday, the legislature did not agree with that position, and so if it passes, which it looks like it's going to pass, there may well be ward-only voting for the next general election in Carson City. So I want to alert you to those things going on that's happening. Those do affect our rights of democracy. And I will just leave this, that one of the issues with respect to, at least as I see it, one of the major distinctions between Carson City and, say, Reno or Henderson is that the ward population in terms of voters is about 5,500 in each ward. That's an approximate number. It's about 5,500 compared to 30,000 to 50,000 in the wards in the larger cities. So it's a little bit difficult to see how you can have such small wards become do the right thing in terms of our democracy, in terms of how we govern our community. The other thing is that from my own personal standpoint is that we need to try and operate our community as a community and not have ourselves segregated into wards 1, 2. I mean, and not be in a position of having to pit one ward against another or things like that. I think we're small enough of a community and our wards are small enough where we can act as a community to make decisions for the benefit of our whole community without pitting one area of town against the other. Now, I will tell you that there are views on the other side of that, and so I just raise that so that you can have something to be thinking about. That's about it for this edition of It's Your City. One, again, let me apologize for missing the last couple of times. I hope not to do that again. And I want to take this opportunity also to thank each and every one of you for what you do to make this community a better place to live, work, and play. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you again.